Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new weekly review. Two setups that I took this week, and one limit that I placed, and I just deleted it on Friday morning. So, first one, dollar CHF on the monthly. We are in this bearish W, but there is still some space until this selling zone. And last week we closed above, or last month we closed above this zone. And every time we were over here, we received a nice push to the upside. So this zone could still hold. Then on the weekly, I know that we were trading against the trend, but in this trend we had like 1, 2, 3, 4, this bullish M with an IC, and the 100 VIP has been touched. So I placed my weekly zone over there, and every time we were in this territorium, we received a nice push to the upside. On the daily, what did we have? This minus 27 VIP completion. And on the 4 hour, I placed my limit over here last week, but now on the previous week, I wanted to see the price turn again. Then price went lower. There was a possibility for new liquidity, and then we received this one. I knew it was a little bit more of a risky trade, but still totally my trade. We received the engulfing candle, so the bulls were kicking in. And on the 2 hour, we had the impulse, correction with the trend, shift of momentum. Place my limit on top of the IC. Then I rounded off to the upside. Stop loss plus 5 pips in this case. And I wanted to trade it to at least the daily highs. Then in the trade, break even, out on break even. We received a new push until at least 2%. And on Friday, we received this bearish push. So break even trade for me. Then the next one, pound CAD. Starting on the monthly, we touched this monthly zone in this week. And as you can see, impulse to the downside, impulse to the downside, impulse to the downside. So we are in very heavy bearish territory. So my monthly bias is short. Then on the weekly, we do have this bigger bearish W in combination with shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2. I wanted to touch the monthly zone first, so my zone was up here. Then on the daily, nothing special yet, just waiting for the price to go to the zone. We touched the zone over here. Then on the daily, I place my daily first structure on the first structure. We receive the impulse, correction with the trend, engulfing candle, shift of momentum. So I can go to the 2 hour. We can see the channel here as well. It's not the biggest breakout of the channel, but I still place my limit, and I placed it on the IC because we had also this zone over here, and for this one, we did not have the same lows. So after this new action, I place my limit. $40, round it off to the downside. Then I added 5 pips for a risk to reward of 4%. In the trade, break even, and eventually it reached my take profit for a 4% profit. Then the last one, Euro US dollar. Starting on the monthly, we are in this bigger bullish M, this smaller bullish M, and we had a big impulse from the bulls. But at this point, we closed around this monthly zone. So over here, we do have kind of like a shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2, but we are in bearish territory. Then on the weekly, you can see this shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2 as well. So I place my zone over here. And as you can see, it falls together with this IC for the bearish W and a strong selling zone. So I do have all my confirmation. Then I just had to wait for the price to come to the zone. And then I had to wait for an entry. There was a bearish W entry over here, but not for me. And then we saw this new action, shift of momentum, shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2. I placed my limit a little bit lower over here because we do have a supply and demand zone over here, and I wanted to be in the trade. Rounded the price off to the downside, 10 pips in this case, and I had a nice risk to reward. Then price pushed without me, was struggling a bit, and Friday morning, 11 o'clock, I think it was after this candle, I deleted my limit. Why? Because the new FTMO rules as well. I didn't want to take any risk, and the chances for the price to touch the entry and go on break even were really small. So I decided to close my entry over here. And as you can see, it was a good choice because liquidity kicked in later on the afternoon and I prevented a -1. So great week for me, 4%. I have been patient in the previous weeks. And as you can see, if you're patient and wait for the right setup, you will get what you deserve. So up to the next week. I will see you guys on a new Sunday market breakdown this Sunday. And for now, enjoy the weekend.